In recent days, tensions surrounding the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia have escalated, particularly with regard to the potential delivery of German Taurus missiles to Ukraine. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz's remarks on May 26 stirred hope in Kiev, suggesting a shift in Germany's policy towards supplying long-range weaponry. There are no longer any restrictions on the range of weapons delivered to Ukraine, neither by the UK, France nor US, Merz stated, highlighting a broader consensus among Western allies to bolster Ukraine's military capabilities. However, he tempered expectations by clarifying that his comments referred to permissions granted last year, leaving many in Ukraine to wonder about the actual delivery of Taurus missiles. Ukrainian lawmakers such as Alexander Marechko expressed cautious optimism, questioning the delay in the delivery of these critical weapons. But where are these missiles? Where is Taurus, for example? Marechko asked, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. The reluctance of Germany to supply Taurus missiles has largely been attributed to the apprehensions of Merz's predecessor Olaf Scholz, who was concerned about escalating tensions with Russia. In contrast, Merz's administration appears more willing to consider the potential impact of equipping Ukraine with such advanced weaponry. The Taurus missile system, designed for deep strike missions, boasts a range of approximately 560 kilometers, with some experts suggesting it could reach up to 800 kilometers. Fabian Hoffmann, a missile technology expert, pointed out that Taurus is particularly effective against fortified targets, including bridges, making it an ideal candidate for striking strategic Russian infrastructure such as the Crimean Bridge. Taurus is the best weapon system in Western arsenals to take down bridges, Hoffmann asserted, indicating its potential role in altering the dynamics of the conflict. The Crimean Bridge itself holds significant symbolic and strategic importance for Russia, serving as a crucial supply line for military operations in Ukraine. Previous Ukrainian strikes against the bridge in 2022 and 2023 caused damage but did not incapacitate it entirely. The introduction of Taurus missiles could change that, potentially enabling Ukraine to disrupt Russian logistics more effectively. Meanwhile, as discussions surrounding the missiles unfold, Russia has ramped up its military operations, launching one of the largest drone and missile strikes against Ukraine in recent memory on May 25 to 26. The Ukrainian Air Force reported successfully intercepting a majority of the incoming threats, but the intensity of the attacks underscores Russia's determination to maintain pressure on Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky remarked that the recent strikes are indicative of Russia's unwillingness to engage in genuine peace negotiations, reinforcing the view that Moscow is committed to achieving its war aims militarily. Compounding the situation is the shifting political landscape in the United States, where President Donald Trump has signaled a potential withdrawal from mediation efforts between Ukraine and Russia. Trump's recent comments suggest he is growing weary of the conflict, stating that any peace agreement should be negotiated directly between the parties involved. This shift raises concerns among Ukrainian officials and their European allies about the future of American support, especially as Trump has historically been reticent to criticize Putin. The interplay of military strategy and international diplomacy will be critical in the coming weeks. The potential delivery of Taurus missiles to Ukraine could enhance its offensive capabilities significantly, potentially altering the course of the conflict, particularly concerning pivotal targets like the Crimean Bridge. Meanwhile, continued Russian military aggression and an unpredictable U.S. foreign policy under Trump add layers of complexity to an already volatile situation. As the situation evolves, the implications of these developments resonate far beyond the battlefield, affecting global security dynamics and the geopolitical landscape in Europe. The coming months will likely prove crucial as both Ukraine and Russia reassess their strategies in light of shifting international support and the ongoing realities of warfare. In a significant escalation of hostilities, the Russian military has adapted its drone warfare tactics to circumvent Ukraine's air defense systems, as reported by Ukraine's Air Force spokesperson Yuri Ihnat in an interview on May 27. This strategic shift comes amidst a surge in drone production by Russia aimed at intensifying attacks on Ukrainian cities and critical infrastructure. The night of May 26 marked a particularly alarming milestone for the ongoing conflict, with reports indicating a record deployment of 355 Shahed-type attack drones and decoys in a single assault. INAD detailed that the new Russian approach involves launching drones from altitudes exceeding 2 kilometers (1.4 miles) with a constant alteration of flight paths to enhance their chances of evading detection and interception. As he explained, at this altitude they become more visible to our radars but remain out of reach of small arms, heavy machine guns and mobile fire teams. This method allows Russian forces to execute direct attacks on their targets with a greater likelihood of success. Moreover, the Russian military has begun to deploy simultaneous group raids targeting the same residential areas or facilities, further complicating Ukraine's defense efforts. The introduction of unmanned simulator drones dubbed Paradia serves as a decoy, designed to divert attention away from the actual assault drones. INAD noted that approximately 60% of the recent drone attacks involved attack drones while 40% comprised Paradia decoys, underscoring the multifaceted nature of Russia's aerial assault strategy. The use of Iranian-made Shahed drones as well as their domestically produced counterparts Garants has been pivotal in overwhelming Ukraine's air defenses. These swarm attacks not only increase the volume of aerial threats but also create openings for more destructive ballistic and cruise missiles to breach Ukrainian defenses. Notably, The Economist reported that Russian operators utilize Telegram messaging app bots to control these drones, providing real-time flight data and video feeds, a refinement that enhances operational effectiveness and situational awareness. As the conflict rages on, Ukraine's air defense capabilities are increasingly stretched, exacerbated by dwindling supplies of Western-sourced munitions. An undisclosed source indicated that Ukraine has exhausted its ammunition for key air defense systems, including 2 SAM/T batteries, while the Krotal short-range anti-aircraft systems have not received new missiles in over a year. The situation raises concerns about the sustainability of Ukraine's defensive posture, especially with the uncertainty surrounding the availability of US-designed Patriot interceptors, crucial for intercepting Russian ballistic missiles. The international community remains on edge as these developments unfold, with US President Donald Trump recently denouncing Vladimir Putin's actions as crazy following a deadly barrage that resulted in the deaths of at least 13 individuals in Ukraine. The crisis has also been marked by ongoing prisoner exchanges, further complicating the already tense diplomatic landscape. Looking ahead, the evolving tactics employed by Russia signal a potentially protracted conflict, with both sides adapting to the changing dynamics of warfare. As Ukraine seeks to bolster its air defenses amid dwindling resources, the need for continued international support remains paramount. The outcome of this conflict will likely hinge on the effectiveness of Ukraine's military strategies and the resilience of its defense infrastructure in the face of relentless aerial assaults. In a striking turn of events in the ongoing geopolitical landscape, former President Donald Trump has expressed increasing frustration towards Russian President Vladimir Putin, labeling him as absolutely crazy, and suggesting that his actions in Ukraine could lead to Russia's downfall. This unexpected shift in tone marks a departure from Trump's previously favorable stance towards Putin as he grapples with the implications of Russia's sustained military aggression against Ukraine. On May 27, 2025, Trump took to Truth Social to voice his displeasure, stating, "He is needlessly killing a lot of people, and I'm not just talking about soldiers. Missiles and drones are being shot into cities in Ukraine for no reason whatsoever." His remarks underscore a growing disillusionment with the Russian leader, particularly in light of an intense aerial offensive launched by Russia that resulted in one of the deadliest days for Ukraine since the onset of the war. Notably, this weekend's attack involved the deployment of at least 355 drones and 9 missiles targeting various Ukrainian cities and raising concerns about the humanitarian crisis unfolding in the region. Trump's criticism is significant not only for its content but also for the context of his relationship with Putin. Historically, Trump has praised the Russian leader, often emphasizing their very good relationship. However, as the war has dragged on and the humanitarian toll escalates, Trump's rhetoric appears to be evolving. He hinted at this transformation when he remarked, "I've always said that he wants all of Ukraine, not just a piece of it," suggesting that he now acknowledges the extent of Putin's ambitions. Despite his newfound hostility, Trump's actions have yet to align with his words. Analysts are questioning whether this emotional outburst will translate into concrete policy changes or if it is merely a reaction to his waning influence and perceived impotence in the face of escalating Russian aggression. Political observers note that while Trump has threatened new sanctions against Russia, he has not yet approved any military aid to Ukraine since assuming office. This hesitance raises doubts about his commitment to holding Putin accountable. The backdrop to Trump's comments reveals a complex interplay of international relations and personal ego. With the war in Ukraine continuing unabated, Trump's previous assertions that he could resolve the conflict in 24 hours are increasingly under scrutiny. French President Emmanuel Macron weighed in on Trump's evolving perspective, asserting that the former president has begun to recognize Putin's duplicity. "You cannot claim to be ready for negotiations and carry out attacks at the same time," Macron stated, highlighting the insincerity of Putin's rhetoric amidst ongoing military operations. As pressure mounts both domestically and internationally, the U.S. Congress is poised to respond. A bipartisan resolution aimed at imposing new sanctions on Russia has garnered significant support, with 81 co-sponsors in the Senate indicating a strong desire for decisive action should peace talks falter. This legislative push reflects a growing consensus that the U.S. must take a more assertive stance in response to Russia's continued aggression. Looking ahead, the trajectory of U.S.-Russia relations remains uncertain. Trump's recent statements suggest a potential pivot in policy, but whether this will lead to substantive measures or remain rhetoric is yet to be seen. With the war showing no signs of abating and the humanitarian crisis worsening, the coming weeks will be critical in determining how the U.S. navigates this complex geopolitical landscape and whether Trump can reconcile his past support for Putin with the pressing realities of the current conflict. In an escalation of tensions surrounding the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky has issued a stark warning regarding Russia's intentions, asserting that President Vladimir Putin is playing games with U.S. peace talks. This remark comes amid a backdrop of intensified drone strikes and missile attacks that have plagued both Ukraine and Russia, signaling a potential shift towards more aggressive military operations as the conflict enters its fourth year. Zelensky's comments reflect growing frustration with the international response to Russia's military actions, particularly as Ukraine faces a relentless barrage of attacks. In a recent message on Telegram, he reported that over 900 drones and missiles were launched against Ukraine in a matter of days, describing the strikes as brazen and large-scale. He emphasized that these military actions are not based on any tactical rationale but are instead a political choice made by Putin to prolong the war and wreak havoc on Ukraine's civilian population. The Ukrainian president called upon the United States and its allies to impose stronger sanctions on Russia, arguing that doing so is crucial to compel Moscow to respect diplomatic efforts towards a ceasefire. New and strong sanctions against Russia will serve as a guaranteed means of forcing Russia not only to cease fire but also to show respect, Zelensky stated. The situation is further complicated by the dynamics of U.S. politics, particularly with the Trump administration's evolving stance on the conflict. President Donald Trump has expressed frustration, stating that Zelensky's public comments are detrimental to Ukraine's interests. In a recent post on Truth Social, Trump remarked that Zelensky's statements cause problems and suggested that Putin has gone absolutely crazy. He warned that if Putin continued on his current path, it could lead to dire consequences for Russia itself. Meanwhile, Russian officials have attempted to deflect blame, with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov suggesting that the peace efforts are being undermined by European leaders encouraging Ukraine's aggressive actions. Despite ongoing diplomatic efforts, the lack of tangible progress in negotiations has left both sides increasingly skeptical of each other's intentions. Zelensky highlighted this impasse, noting that Russia has yet to deliver a promised memorandum outlining its negotiating position, a delay that he interprets as an indication of Moscow's lack of seriousness in pursuing peace. On the ground, the situation remains dire. Ukraine's military reported successfully intercepting 43 out of 60 drones launched by Russia in a recent attack. However, the continued strikes have resulted in significant civilian casualties, with at least 12 people reported dead and many more injured in the latest wave of assaults. As both nations engage in reciprocal drone strikes, the conflict shows no signs of abating, with each side preparing for potential new offensives. As Zelensky pushes for a 30-day ceasefire to facilitate peace talks, the prospects for resolution remain uncertain. His administration is advocating for increased international support in military aid, recognizing that without a unified and robust response from the global community, the war may continue to escalate, resulting in further destruction and loss of life. In this fraught landscape, the future of peace talks hangs precariously, with both military actions and political maneuvers shaping the trajectory of the conflict. Zelensky's call for stronger sanctions and military cooperation from the West reflects a desperate bid to alter the course of a war that has already claimed countless lives and ravaged the fabric of Ukrainian society. As diplomatic efforts falter, the world watches closely, awaiting developments that could finally bring an end to the hostilities or plunge the region into deeper turmoil.